I cannot stop podcasting. It's like an addiction of sorts to keep podcasting and cracking open the mic. But today is the Sunday pod, and sometimes I utilize this feature, sometimes I don't. But in a week that was chaos, craziness at SCOTUS, it's, as I'm talking to my friend Danny here, who's actually a psychology major. Danny, you're no stranger to this podcast. How are you tonight?
I'm good. How you doing?
I'm a little stressed. Obviously, I think all of us should be. I think what I'm calling the whiplash in Washington is going to have a ripple effect amongst everyone, and you were proving that point. But I want to hone in on this because, let's be real, the media is focusing on the physical impact of Roe v. Wade overturning, the physical abortion. But you reminded me, no, it's not just physical. The mental mindset is heavily impacted. And I go on to say, I would further say, both genders are affected by this mentally, but I want to start with where you're coming from first.
Obviously, both sides are going to be affected mentally, but women more because it's what they're going through physically.
Right, and obviously they are now going to be traumatized and worried about being pregnant. I mean, that's the first thing. The worry, I think every woman has that worry at some point in their life, but now it's enhanced 3 times, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
Or more. I mean, could we see, unfortunately, suicide? Could we see just a really bad pattern developing here?
Yes, we could see suicide. We could see more cases of postpartum depression. We can, and if this is, like, hate to bring this up, but if this was a case of pregnancy by rape, we could see PTSD arise more. We could even see more kids in foster care because because women might not want them.
The thing about the 3 exceptions, I feel like that gets thrown out the window. The Republicans always had the 3 exceptions thing as if they were going to dictate everything, right? But they did. They had the rape, incest, and there was a third one. Oh, and danger to the woman's health.
Yeah.
And I don't know, that 3 exception thing hasn't been brought up. So does that mean Republican states are now saying, oh, we don't care about exception, we're just going to ban it? I think we are seeing some full-term bans, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I think so.
Which is not good. I mean, look, we can all deal with 18 weeks. We can all deal with having it banned at 6 weeks or 7. But then again, there are some states that want to take it to 18 weeks, which isn't the answer either. A baby should not be aborted as it's literally just been born. I think there's a better way to handle that. But that's a discussion for another time. What can we do? Well, I guess males, firstly, what can males do in support of women and just stand by them as they go through this ordeal? What can guys do to stand by even their own woman during this ordeal?
Just be there for them. Be someone that they can come to talk to, vent to, and just be their emotional support.
Exactly. And even if a woman is not pregnant right now, I think it's just very clear that all women feel this right now emotionally. and we'll have to see how this goes. As for a male, I mean, we've always agreed that we have no right to say what a woman could do with her uterus, right? That is just a fact of life. We have no right to say anything. But this decision makes us change how we approach the dating world, I think, also.
Yeah, that's true too.
Because now, it's a lot. And the other thing about the trauma that the women are going to face is the media is not even covering the mental health. As I say, they're dealing with the physical a lot more, and that's even more traumatizing to women. That, like, oh my God, they're telling us what to do with their bodies. The minute you get that narrative out there by the media, it affects them a little more than saying, oh, by the way, these are the states that still have abortion. There are a wide amount of states, but crossing state lines, that's a 1970s pre-Roe situation that we've never seen in our lifetime.
Exactly.
And that's the trauma here. But do you think the media is playing into the mental impact of this?
No. I have not heard the media say anything about the mental health part.
But I mean, do you think they're contributing to it by specifically focusing on the physical and not talking about resources? I guess is my question.
Yeah.
They're right.
Not focusing on the physical, which, yes, they should, but also they need to highlight what the mental health aspect is.
What's when you have whiplash like this in the news cycle, Danny, I know you follow it close too sometimes. What's your mental health check-in? Like, how do you stay sane above all this nuttiness and, I would say, nonsense?
Well, right now, yes, I'm following it, but as you know already, I'm dealing with my own issues physically. So I'm not really affected by it as much as I should be. But that's only because I'm going through my own shit.
Yeah, exactly. And that is very true. And we're praying you get through that shit as well. Danny Voyes said, I haven't talked to you in a little bit, so that is a development that my listeners don't know about, that you've been going through a lot.
Yep.
But does it affect, does it affect your outreach? Meaning if someone reach out to you today and say, hey, Danny, what do I do? You'd still answer even if you're not feeling 100%, or are you kind of, like how are you approaching it from that angle?
Well, if someone needs to approach me about this issue, I'm more than willing to answer them, even though I'm going through my own shit. I've always been that way, always will be that way.
And you don't sound like you're slowing down, man, and I love to hear that. That's very encouraging.
I'm trying not to slow down because I hate doing that.
You hate the...
I hate slowing down. I'm always the one that wants to do something and not just lay around and do nothing.
And I want to be clear about something I said about nonsense. I don't mean the issue is nonsense. I mean what the court has done is nonsense.
Yeah, exactly.
Because this is precedent. This was before Trump got elected. And you know what? People say, oh, there they go, blaming Trump again. Well, he elected 3 judges, and it's very apparent if we go back on the records, that Gorsuch and Kavanaugh, I remember distinctly reporting on this back in the day, said they would keep precedent. I even talked to you about this, Danny. I remember texting you about that. Boy, were we absolutely wrong. I hope they got the last 2 sentences because my computer froze up. Anyway, let me repeat it one more time. I was texting with Danny like 4-5 years ago when both Gorsuch and Kavanaugh were undergoing their big, SCOTUS hearings. And I remember distinctly texting Danny, the idea that they may overturn is that I thought was nonsense because they said at the hearing, oh, that's precedent. So you and I genuinely believe that they would keep precedent.
Yeah.
But it is disturbing to know that if you can lie on your job application to get the Supreme Court, that's disturbing, man. Let alone the mental health of the ruling alone. The fact that the court is now that is really disturbing.
Yes, it is.
Because no one should lie on their job application, but to lie to become a judge, that's scary. I think that's even scarier than Biden picking someone, an African American woman, for diversity. That's just what it is. Now you're telling me that 2 judges that made this huge decision and said they wouldn't back in the day were elected. And you know, the senators saying how remorseful they are or how they wouldn't have done it. That's bullshit. Like, you know, own up to the fact that you ran with these guys.
Yep.
Don't tell me, oh, I wish I didn't do that. Well, or you were misled. Well, I don't know. Do your research. Or I don't know what to tell you about that one. So it's bad, and it's even worse when I'm starting to curse on my podcast. You know shit's going downhill if that's happening, Danny. So, because Danny knows I never curse. Like, I just genuinely don't like to do it, because whatever. I still like to think this could be a radio show one day. But for now, yeah, this is horrible. This is the worst we've been going through that I can remember, Danny.
Yep. I would say so.
I mean, as far as SCOTUS goes, 9/11 will always be the worst day. In fact, I kind of get insulted when people say, when you compare to that level, this is the most tragic day in American history. Like, okay, it's horrible, but it didn't, you know, it wasn't 3,000 lives killed. However, we can say that women's health is in jeopardy now. Now lives are in jeopardy, no?
Yep.
Because if they don't have the right resources, if they don't have... This also, I would say, increases the need for sex education in high school. Can we just go there for a minute?
Yeah.
It's like teen pregnancy is actually celebrated. I hate to say it. It's celebrated on TV. You know, it's like there should be sex education for that.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, when kids do it when they're young and they're pushed into a corner, it's horrible for everybody.
Yep.
So, yes, we need a SCOTUS that's going to be stable again, because I like to think they're the glue that keeps the crazy legislation and executive branch together. I mean, they keep this country together through their laws. That's the point. And, I mean, you can argue with me, oh, well, they're going to keep the laws in place. It just goes back to the states. But some states are saying, screw it, we're just going to ban. And it's not just, as I said earlier, Danny, I could deal with a 6-week ban, but I cannot deal with a full, I can't, how do I say it? I can't deal with a ban on everything. Let's put it that way. That's what I cannot deal with.
Exactly.
And that's what some states are gunning for. I think it's ironic and important to note, because DeSantis gets a lot of heat and a lot of crap, and I'm not a fan of Ron DeSantis personally, Danny. I don't think you are either. Like, that guy. Ugh. But to his credit, as of right now, Florida still has bans in place, which you would never expect in the media frenzy to actually have that revelation that Florida and Georgia, 2 very southern states, still have bans in place, which is, or still have, you know, ability to have abortion in place, I should say.
Yeah.
So them not banning abortion is kind of a surprise. It's just the Bible Belt, and obviously that fits the Christian narrative of biblical, blah. But who, I always say this, who did Jesus sit with the most? The less than? The least of these? Mary, who was supposedly around town, known as this Mary Magdalene, but he took her under his wing. Like, he accepted women, and this idea that it's a Christian, it's a sin to have abortion. I don't buy it. I don't agree with it, because it's needed sometimes in the worst case scenario. But I will say this one other point, or two other points, as we've been talking for 16 minutes. How is that possible, Dan? The point, there are two more points I'd like to make, though, which is this is going to be a depopulation tool, meaning women will be more scared to try and have kids in case something goes wrong, right? I mean, that's going to be an issue. And in general, sex will become lower. We're already seeing rates. I mean, this was the first year in a while that there was actually more kids born, according to, I think, CDC or whatever, but this was the first year. But overall, the trend has been downward for kids, for people having kids. This sinks it more beyond that. There won't be even sex because both parties will be nervous that she could become pregnant. Isn't that a legitimate fear now?
Yes, it is.
And isn't it more, I mean, I wouldn't say crazy. I don't know how to say it, but isn't that harmful to a society when you don't encourage people to have kids? I think that's harmful.
Yep.
Because obviously we have to keep these generations going, and having kids does that. But when you go to this length, then I would say, as I said earlier, this affects men too, because they're going to have to approach everything differently now.
I agree.
And then my final point on all this is it's a very controversial and sort of maybe going against everything we've been talking about for 17 minutes. But I also I don't like the way the media makes abortion the first resort. And you can debate me on this, but I feel like they could always have another way if it's not a danger to the woman's health. I don't know, it's a fine line, but I often find that the media says, yeah, abort, 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 and I'm like, no, if you can give the kid a chance at life, give him or her a chance at life. That's kind of where I come at this.
I agree with that in some ways, but I think the only way abortion is necessary is if the woman was raped.
That is necessary. And if her health is in danger. And I would say both are one and the same, because a woman being raped, her health is in danger there too. And it's sickening to know that specific could be off the books. I think that's just heinous, actually.
Yeah.
And you're going to see, I bet you have a lot of people telling their story one way or the other. I have a feeling. But about overcoming that, and maybe even abortion survivors. There are those too, and I wonder what they're thinking today.
Me too.
Because that's a story in itself. I mean, that's a real story of itself. But the bottom line is, do your mental health check-in as you listen to and you feel the physical sickness, the physical impact this will have, because you do rightfully feel like your bodies are being violent. Like, you're being told to do what your body. There's no doubt about that right now.
Exactly.
But don't forget to do a mental health check-in, because that will save your life at this point. Is kind of where I think we're hitting home here.
Yeah, exactly.
And as I said, I don't know what the next week brings, but I sure hope it's a calm week into the 4th of July.
Oh, me too.
Woo! Like, really? And then guns being open. Okay. Like, here's another thing with the guns is that I believe Second Amendmenters deserve the right, after what we've seen on subways, after what we've seen everywhere, people should be allowed to carry in some way, shape, or form. Because you don't know, nutstos are acting out everywhere, right?
Yeah.
But this seems to be giving an open right to anybody, and I don't think that's right either. Like, there's got to be restrictions in place there, too. You know, it's just crazy.
Maybe the extensive mental health background checks.
All of that. And by the way, Americans agree on all of this, meaning they agree to keep Roe v. Wade. They agree to background checks. They also agree to keep people's Second Amendment rights. I think there are a lot of people that still agree with that. So, SCOTUS, freaking listen to the people and not your president that elected you, you know, to do this. That same president that, I will say it, had a rally on January 6th and did so much damage there too. It's almost irreversible, and sometimes I'm even like, how do I even support that guy? I hate to say it, but that's just what it's coming down to now. And you know, I woke up every day defending Trump, and I'm really having buyer's remorse on that one. Because it's really become a mess. And I'm having remorse on Biden. The point is, no matter who we elect, the chaos will always ensue them. So how do we change everything for the better? How do we get people who will also elect qualified judges? And yeah, I think Gorsuch and Kavanaugh at the time were qualified. I did. But they lied. And I think that's got to be looked at a lot in the coming week. Anyway, Danny, thanks so much, man, for joining me tonight.
No problem.
And this has been the Sunday Pod. I'm Alex Garrett. We'll talk to you soon.